All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So my name is Jeff.
Merrick.
Nice
to meet you, Jeff.
Yeah. And so you had about 30 seconds to think about the question.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So well, hopefully you've been thinking about it all your life. What do you think happens next after we die?
Okay. Well, I would start with I was raised Southern Baptist.
Okay.
18 years going to church, and the last few years of that, I started going to Raves, taking LSD. And the only way I could go to Raves and stay out all night was if I went to church the next day.
Okay, so it's usually a Saturday night or something?
Yeah. So I came down on acid in church a few times, and that kind of made me lose my religion as far as organized religion.
Yeah.
And for a while I thought I was an atheist, but over time I've since discovered a new spirituality, much of it due to psychedelic drugs, DMT, ketamine, acid. And I feel way more in touch with my spiritual side now, and it's come from within. And I think that it's really hard to put into words.
That's fine. Yeah, this is interesting.
But
it's not the most usual thing that I hear.
Yeah. Well, I've done a lot of psychedelic exploring, and I feel like I've traversed the astral plane a couple times.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're all part of everything, and everything is a part of us. And I feel like our spirits are unique, but they're also part of the larger, just, I don't know what I would even call it.
You know, that like Eastern religion believes that, you know, the creation and the creator are all one.
Yeah.
As opposed to Western would say the creator, God, created everything else, and so we're all...
Yeah. That's what I would say. I would say that we're all connected in a way, like, you know, one thing that psychedelics allow me to do is reach a point that I feel like meditation also can allow.
Yeah.
Where you can be, everything is quiet, and you're able to look internally and also connect to everything.
And from what I understand about meditation, and just I think what people are learning is we have natural drugs too.
Oh yeah.
You know, parts of, you know, like, what are they, hormones or endorphins or whatever. So we may be experiencing the effects of those in a trance-like state.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
so it's probably related. I would think.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends that have studied transcendental meditation, and they have also done drugs, psychedelics, and they don't need psychedelics anymore.
They just
they can get there, you know.
Yeah.
And
so you're kind of taking the shortcut.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to, you know, my mind is too active. I'm getting into meditation. And, you know, I'm trying to go that route.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I would imagine it's not for. I'm actually a high school teacher, and I teach special education, so I'm aware of the ways different people think. You know, and not the same thing doesn't work for everyone as far as different learning. At least in learning, you know.
I have a hard time quieting my brain down.
Yeah.
To that point, but yeah, I'm definitely a psychedelic explorer, and I feel like I've gotten the spirituality from that, and
now,
it's really hard to put into words.
May I ask, like, when you're there, are you talking about, like, you're connecting with, like, beings that you can communicate with, or is it just a general feeling, or what are we talking about here?
The most extreme of those experiences was on DMT, and it's common for people that have done, or ayahuasca. DMT is the synthetic version of ayahuasca, which has been...
I have no knowledge of it.
So ayahuasca is a natural...
Sounds like something the Indians might have done.
Yeah. In South America.
I'm thinking of like peyote or something like that.
Yeah, I've done peyote also.
Okay.
And you go to another place.
Yeah.
It's an out-of-body experience, and it feels like there are other beings there, but they're in your periphery, and they. I don't know. When I leave that experience, I get very strong messages to protect your earthly body, to allow it to grow in love, allow your heart to grow with love, and allow your mind to grow with the ability to express that love.
Yeah.
Protect that as long as you can. Protect those that you love. And for some reason, I love to be in the sunshine after that. And just like, I feel like the sun is the life giver. And,
so that might explain some of the. I asked this of a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. What do you think happens next? And well, it sounds like So I don't know if you've said what you think happens next.
Well, I feel like we return back to kind of this universal sort of spirit plane that we're all just rejoicing with each other, yet we're all the same at the same time.
Okay. Yeah.
And
very similar.
It's really hard to put into words.
People with like a Buddhist, background, or it's interesting, the similarities. Yeah. One of the things that convinces me about Christianity is the similarities. That I can have. Like I meet a lot of people who are believers and feel like I've known them for a long time because we have a lot in common. And so I would imagine that's kind of convincing for you.
My parents are still very heavily involved in the Southern Baptist faith,
which I'm not real familiar with. Is it? Would you say it's legalistic, or is it? I don't know. Not Pentecostal necessarily.
It's
kind of. Is it more? Some churches are very emotionally oriented. Some are very, say, intellectually. I guess. Some are like they want to inspire you. You know what I'm saying?
This is a little both, but I would say in recent times it's gotten way too much political,
power maybe.
Yeah,
I know
the politics.
Yeah.
Like of
what
of
state
the
is
earth.
that?
Well, they're in Florida now, but they used to be in Texas. I grew up in Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
And
so in the heart of the Bible Belt. And everything.
and like I was saying, coming down off acid in church, I really saw through all of the kind of superficialness of it, and I think at its core, it's teaching the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think that there's way too much political overtones these days.
I think it's possible to be in church and kind of see it as an outsider would see it.
Yeah.
I know
the message is there. It's good.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when I maybe I'll be watching a church service on YouTube, and if you turn the volume off, you feel like you kind of know what people are talking about and what they're doing and what they're saying, but you don't feel a part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I've kind of felt like what it must feel like to be kind of an outsider.
Yeah. Well, there was one place we lived growing up where we went to a non-denominational church.
Yeah.
And that was the closest I felt to religion growing up.
Yeah.
Because it was very open to everything.
So it was not necessarily like, say, a evangelical.
Yeah, I mean, it was
non-denominational
Christian
church,
based, but in a very non-judgmental and open way.
Okay.
And, not,
so maybe they're just not stuck in their traditional music and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So would you say you still believe in God, or
don't?
Or what do you
feel
think
like
about?
I don't think that there's an all-controlling being, but I think that there's an energy that is pervasive in everything.
Yeah.
And it's also part of, nature, and, we are all connected in a way that we that I think like meditation or psychedelics allows you to connect in that kind of way.
Yeah.
But we're so busy with the external in our day-to-day lives that it's really hard to connect in that way.
Yeah. Have you ever felt the presence of, say, spirits that are evil in those trips? Is there good and evil on that? In your experience of that dimension,
okay.
Would you say that there's good?
I would say that there is evil, But I would also say that I've felt presences, and there are certain people that I've gotten bad vibes from, like extreme bad vibes in those mindsets. But also I think that I have experienced that there are people that may lean towards darker things, but that doesn't make them a bad person. And we all have good and bad in us, and I feel like that's the yin and the yang. It's a balance, and it doesn't mean that it's evil. Like some people lean more dark. I'm a Gemini, so I'm neutral. I like to say,
Okay.
But I think that even people who are more leaning in a dark direction, we can still come together in love.
Okay. Yeah.
It's hard to describe,
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not something you stop on the sidewalk and talk to someone about every day.
No, but I welcome this kind of conversation. This is
I do
exactly
too.
what I look for in life.
Let me ask you that. Do you feel like you have a purpose in life? What would that be?
So I'm a DJ. I've been a DJ for 25 years. That's not my day job, but that's what my passion is in. And I've
like for dances and things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, for like
a radio station?
Underground. Well, I do play on a radio station, but my background is in, rave parties. But
I see. So you kept up that interest.
I basically, the dance floor is where I find my zen, and it connects people. Music connects people, and it also just like triggers emotions. And so I feel like my purpose as a DJ is to connect people and to help people discover themselves or discover, their
the larger universe. Yeah. Interesting. I've never, I don't know if I've heard it explained. A lot of times I ask people their purpose, and I feel like I have a real strong purpose as a Christian, and a lot of people really have a hard time like expressing that they do have a purpose. But
I feel strongly about that. I feel like music is my purpose, and spreading the message of joy through music. Togetherness and just acceptance, and
so from the sound of it, it almost sounds like you were more attracted to the rave subculture than maybe turned off to church. See what I'm saying? Like you didn't sound like reject church or Christianity much as you went another way because it was more
personal.
Interesting or more personal.
And that's I feel like organized religion is kind of forcing something on you that may not be right for everybody. I feel like spirituality has to come from within, and it's a journey that like we search our entire lives to find the truth. And I feel like, not to sound arrogant or anything, but I feel like I'm beyond organized religion because I haven't say I found it, but I'm on a path that is more personal.
Was your church a kind of like, maybe another way of categorizing churches, was it kind of like a fire and brimstone church? Like a lot of that kind of preaching going on?
I mean,
or
not
so
as much as like, Pentecostal, but definitely there was, like, for instance, one thing that really turned me off, this is a specific memory I have, was the church that I was going to. This was in El Paso, Texas. They, first of all, they had raised $1 million from the congregation to build this new auditorium. New auditorium had like projectors.
Well, that's good.
And they had subwoofers.
You know what? Let's move it over here. Yeah, because that sound might be. That's funny. All right.
Okay. Anyway, so they had subwoofers and big sound system. And I remember going in one day and they showed this video. It was like a movie, and evil forces right here. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So it was a movie that it was talking about Samson. You know how he was.
So it's showing a movie during church?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And about how Samson was captured by the Palestinians, I think.
Yeah, Philistines.
Or the Philistines.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And how, he overcame that, but there was, a lot of death, a lot of Philistines died, and it just seemed wrong to me. Like, it seemed like, why are we at war with people, with other human beings? I mean, we should be embracing them. We should be embracing each other's differences.
Yeah.
And I still feel that way. Even, I think Muslims, I think we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's just the political overtones of it have really clouded the message.
It's kind of eye-opening. You grow up and you're going to Sunday school maybe, or some kind of a thing that's oriented towards children.
Yeah.
And they kind of gloss over a lot of that for good reason, I think. Like learning about Noah's Ark, and the idea that this family was spared, but what they don't say is, and all around the boat were all sorts of corpses, floating in the water,
right,
and women and children, and so that's hard. Those are hard truths. Some things I've had to wrestle with.
Yeah.
So as a Christian, as I read the Bible, I read it as God's word, but I don't read it as if, for example, Samson killing the Philistines, because he killed a lot of them. I don't read it as if I have the right to kill the Philistines. It's more like God is taking this one group of people, kind of like this, what's the word for a prototype, and showing, like all of humanity had fallen away from God. And as we know from, the whole thing with Noah's Ark, and why did everyone was going their own way and doing their own thing. So God takes one group of people and he starts working with them to show what can he do through their lives, and in them and through them, the Israelites. So we have winners and losers. We have enemies. We have people who have God's blessing, and people who the rest of humanity really is outside of God's blessing. That they're actively going against God, and how can we reconcile that? And I'm a Gentile, I'm not a Jewish person. I'm one of them,
Well, here's what I would say in modern day, is that the evil people, or the people that are doing the most damage in the world, are the Christians, because they're against LGBTQ, they're against, others, Muslims, and I think that they've got it all wrong, basically. I think that people like me, which there are many people that share my beliefs.
More and more. I've been doing this for a while, and I'm seeing,
I think we are the righteous ones. We might, on the surface, to the Christians, seem like heathens, but in reality, we're getting in touch with ourselves and each other, and loving each other, and we're celebrating life, And I feel like that is a crime in the eyes of Christians, and I don't think it should be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Christian. I'm one of them. Am I against LGBT? Am I against Muslims? Am I against anyone? No, but I do believe that all people have sinned, have gone against God. The one thing that helps me to know that it's fair is the whole idea of that there's a universal, everyone has a conscience, like everyone has a moral conscience, a sense of right and wrong, and the problem is we all break it. you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we all do.
yeah,
Everybody.
Christians. So like, for example, if I die, well, I am going to die. If I stand before God and I'm judged by, am I a good person? Well, I've told lies. I'd be a liar. I've stolen, so I'd be a thief, you know. I haven't done it lately, but
Yeah.
I've used God's name disrespectfully. I'd be a blasphemer. You know, I haven't murdered anyone, but Jesus, you know, spoke, you know, like to the spirit of the law, not just the letter of the law. So he said things like, if you have anger in your heart towards your brother and you call him a fool, you're in danger of the fire of hell. I mean, I'm a murderer at heart, you know. I've hurt people with my words. Words can be very hurtful, you know. Even my thoughts, you know, it says don't commit adultery. Well, okay, I'm happily married, but okay, I've had wandering eyes, you know. I would be committing adultery in my heart, you know. I would be guilty as charged standing before God.
And I feel like a lot of Christians are hypocrites because they wouldn't accept that they may
To say all that?
Yeah. And I'm not against Christianity. I'm not against any of that. I just think that we're all together and we're all human.
One of the things that I find is, as I talk to different people, I do talk to a lot of people who have grown up in the church like yourself. I don't necessarily, like, a lot of people don't do their homework as far as like, well, what do I actually believe, right? What does it mean to be a Christian? And so a lot of people just think, like almost every other religion in the world, as long as I'm a good person and I treat other people well, I will
pray,
have a better.
I ask for forgiveness. You know?
Yeah, I'll have read my Bible every day, go, you know, attend services, whatever. I'll go to heaven. I'm not a perfect person. We know that, you know. I've never met anyone who thought they were perfect, but everyone, like, what percent? If I was to ask. Well, I do ask people, do you think you're a good person, right?
Yeah.
What percent do you think would say, yeah, I'm a pretty good person?
Probably 100.
It's like 99.
Yeah.
Over 99, you know. And that's, we have a very high opinion of ourselves because we're comparing ourselves to people that we can think of that are worse than us, you know, like the standard of other people. Yeah. And I kind of think that's why the newspaper is, you know, like, or just the daily news is so attractive. It's like, oh, look at these people, I'm better than them, you know. And so there's this along with a conscience, I really believe, is a common desire for self-justification or righteousness of some sort, you know. So
which is tied to the ego.
Yeah, you know. Like we want to feel like we're above average, you know, like we're pretty good. So I talk to atheists, you know, and the very common thing that they tell me is, I don't need the threat of heaven or hell or the reward of heaven to be a good person. I'm just a good person for no reason, you know. And that makes me better than those religious people out there because they're doing it for a reason, you know. And so there's still this desire to be good, and who are we accountable to, you know?
No, that's interesting.
Would you say you're a good person?
Absolutely. I mean, have I done bad things? Of course.
Yeah.
You know, but
and the hard thing for me as a Christian is, you know, like, I believe in this religion that has very, very good news that we can be with our Creator forever, right? Wonderful news. Actually, a lot of people don't want to be with God. They want to go their own way and do their own thing. But for me, it's the best news I've ever heard. The problem is there's bad news, and that is I have sinned and I have broken my relationship with God. I haven't treated Him as I should, you know, in all the ways you know, like I've broken all the 10 Commandments. You know, I haven't done the good that I should do. I can't use the good you know, I do some good things, but I can't use that to pay for the bad because I should do those things anyway, you know? So
it's a journey.
It's like, I mean, it's a journey.
And you know, I think that I may not I may not pray to a God necessarily, but I still have gratitude, which I think is the same thing. You know, I'm grateful for what I have, and I shout it out to the universe. You know, and you know, if I feel like I need something in my life, you know, I'll speak it, and you know, I feel like there are energies that we can't explain.
Yeah.
And
where does your gratitude come from? Like, do you feel like you deserve the life you're living?
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, so yeah. I'm grateful.
That's how I feel too. It's like for me it comes from I have gratitude because I know that I've sinned against God, and yet He is so patient with me, and He's so kind to me anyway. I don't deserve that. And so you know all about Jesus on the cross. He died for my sins. How could I ever not have gratitude? And if God forgives me of all the different ways that I've offended Him, how could I not forgive the next guy? We probably need to get.
No, I just need.
Thank you for your.
My son's at home.
Oh, okay.
But it's all good.
Okay.
It's all good.
So for me, that's where the gratitude comes from.
Yeah.
It's just realizing I don't deserve.
Yeah. Same.
Actually, it's not that I don't deserve what I get. It's more like what I do deserve, and this you don't have to agree with, but I do deserve the punishment of hell. I do believe that.
Yeah.
That should be me on the cross, for example, as far as like I should be the one being punished, and yet the miracle is that God Himself dies in my place. What? You know?
Yeah.
I'm filled with this constant sense of wonder about that.
Half of my life, that's
what you grew up
in
hearing.
Me. So I don't shun that. It's part of what I believe. And I do believe that Jesus walked the earth and was crucified, and I also believe that Muhammad walked the earth, and you know, he also had a message of God, and I think that God is the same between them, and what that God is, I don't know. I think we all have a little bit of God in us.
I have talked with a lot of Muslims about what they believe, and I mean, I'm sure you've heard this growing up that, like there's a difference between a works-based faith, which, the people that killed Jesus were the religious people, right? Yeah. They were the Pharisees, and they were considered hypocrites because they thought themselves to be more righteous than everyone else by their own efforts. Mm-hmm. And so the difference between, what Christianity teaches is we can't be good enough. We need Christ righteousness. Other religions would say, and even people within Christianity who, like I say, don't do their homework, would believe, no, I can make myself good enough, and so that's called self-righteousness.
Yeah.
And so what's going to justify our existence? For me, I know I could never do enough good to pay for the bad I've done, because I should do good anyway. It's it's just part of being human. Like if I help someone up who had hurt themselves, I'm not being a good person, I believe. I'm being a person.
Yeah.
In other words, this is what God made me for,
Yeah.
So, like the Good Samaritan, he wasn't really a good Samaritan. He was just a Samaritan who helped someone on the road. Yeah. Compared to those other people, yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah.
But, so.
Yeah, well.
You gonna raise your kids in just kind of like, would you want them to do drugs? I suppose when they're old enough. Right?
I hope that he, at someday, goes on and discovers that in himself.
Well, maybe through meditation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it would. I've definitely thought about that. He's 11. I would never introduce him to it, and
it's always interesting. I think it's good to talk about religion, but it's also good to realize that what we decide about religion doesn't just affect us. It affects all the people around us, especially those we love the most, and the next generation. So it becomes even more important, to think it through.
Yeah, my mom was here a few weeks ago. My wife and I went out of town. I'm sure they discussed some, I still remember the talk that I had with my mom when I was like 10 when she told me, all about Jesus dying for our
Yeah.
sins. And,
Well, I'm sure you've heard it like all the time in church
so,
too.
yeah. So I welcome that, and I want him to ultimately figure it out for himself over a lifetime. But like my wife and I have definitely had some experiences together.
Are you pretty much in agreement with her as far as your beliefs?
Yeah, well, she's Native American, so she has, much
more of a heritage.
Yeah, she doesn't subscribe to Christianity at all.
Yeah,
she definitely is about the connection with everything, and so between us, we talk about it, and it's interesting, and it's a journey.
Well, very good. I want to give you something I think might help with the thing I'm thinking about with your son is, okay, yes, we want to give the next generation, like for someone like you, of course, me, I would raise my kids Christian, right? But for you want to let them make their own choice, right? Let him make his own choice. This is a book about all the different, just kind of a summary of all the different religions.
All right.
Mormonism, Buddhism. It's comparing them all to Christianity.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
it's coming from that perspective, but
Thanks
might be
very
helpful.
much. Yeah,
And
I'll
that's
check it out for sure.
Just a little souvenir from our conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, also, here's the website link.
Yeah, please.
So that's where I go to church, and this here is the YouTube channel.
Awesome.
And you can see how other people have responded.
All right, Jeff.
So,
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate this.